Hello friends, welcome back, and if you are new to our channel, thank you for stopping by. Today I'm going to share a beautiful knitting pattern which is a 4-row pattern for which we need stitches in the multiple of 5 plus 1. So I have taken 26 stitches. Now as I told you, this particular pattern consists of 4 rows, but when we start we have to do a foundation row. This is what I'm going to show you now. The edge stitch is a knit or we slip it off. From here starts the foundation row. This is not to be repeated in future. So yarn forward, it's going to be 4 number of purl, 2, 3 and 4. Yarn backwards, I'm going to knit but wind the yarn twice around the right needle. So this is the sequence that is to be followed. That is yarn forward, 4 number of purl, yarn backwards, knit but need to wind the yarn twice around the right needle. That is the important part of this particular pattern. Again, the repeat pattern, 4 number of purl, yarn backwards, knit, but I'm going to wind the yarn twice, yarn forward, the last set of pattern, 4 number of purl, yarn backwards, knit by winding the yarn twice. So that's done. Now we have 5 stitches left. Yarn forward, 4 is going to be purl as per the pattern, yarn backwards, the edge stitch is going to be a knit. So the very first foundation row is complete. This is not to be repeated in future. For this pattern I have taken 26 stitches. So let us start off with the first row of the pattern. The edge stitch is slipped off. After that, yarn is there in the front, so we are going to purl 4. So from here starts the first row of the pattern which will be repeated in future. The stitch where we are going to purl but wind the yarn twice as we had done in the previous row. Now repeat pattern starts, 4 number of purl, 1, 2, 3 and 4. That's the stitch where we need to purl by winding the yarn twice around the right needle. Now the repeat pattern again, 4 number of purl. It is a very easy pattern. You won't believe. You have to stay till the end to see how easy it is. Purl by winding the yarn twice. Now again 4 number of purl. This is again the repeat pattern. Again a purl by winding the yarn twice. That's the same stitch. Now 4 number of purl, and the edge stitch is also going to be a purl. So the first row of the pattern has come to an end. Now let's move on to the second row of the pattern. The edge stitch is slipped off. Yarn forward, 4 number of purl. It is very easy to remember as well. Perfect for the beginners who want to try some beautiful pattern. Now yarn backwards. This is the stitch where we have been winding the yarn twice. So again we do a knit by winding the yarn twice. Now let's repeat the sequence. 4 number of purl, yarn backwards, a knit by winding the yarn twice around the right needle or the working needle. Again the repeat pattern, 4 number of purl, yarn backwards, a knit by winding the yarn twice around the right needle. Yarn forward. Again the repeat pattern, 4 number of purl, yarn backwards, a knit by winding the yarn twice. Yarn forward, 5 stitches left, 4 is going to be purl as we have done in the previous rows as well, and the edge stitch is going to be a knit. So the second row of the pattern has come to an end. Moving on to the third row of the pattern, the edge stitch is slipped off. Yarn is kept in the front. It is going to be 4 number of purl, 1, 2, 3 and 4. After that, again the same thing, we are going to work a purl by winding the yarn twice around the working needle. So we are going to repeat this sequence. 4 number of purl, a purl by winding the yarn twice around the right needle. Again 4 number of purl, the regular purl, after that a purl by winding the yarn twice around the right needle. Finally 4 number of purl, a purl by winding the yarn twice around the right needle. We have 5 stitches left, out of which 4 is going to be purl and the edge stitch is also going to be a purl. So the third row of the pattern comes to an end. Let's move on to the fourth row or the final row of this particular pattern. This step needs to be washed carefully. The edge stitch is slipped off, yarn forward, 4 number of purl, which is constant from the very beginning. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now yarn backwards. That's the stitch where we had winded the yarn twice in every row. We remove it from the left needle and we are going to remove the strands. That's the third and this is the fourth strand. Once we get the 4 strands, we are going to put the stitch into the left needle and then into the right needle. Now if we see the strands, we have 4 strands behind. Now we are going to take it all together in the right needle and pass the first stitch over those 4 strands. So we get 4 strands all together. Now we are going to put it back into the left needle and work a knit from the back side. So it's done. Simple as that. Yarn forward, 4 number of purl, 1, 2, 3 and 4. I have shown the steps. I am showing the step very slowly so that it becomes easy. First let's unwind it. Yes, now we release it. Now we are going to collect the strands. That's the first one, the second, the third and the fourth. We have to be careful with the fourth one because we have a tendency to miss that stitch. Now we are going to put it back into the right needle and along with that put all the 4 strands into the right needle. Now the actual stitch is going to be passed over those 4 strands. Simple. Now put those 4 strands into the left needle and then we are going to work all of them together from the back side of the work. So let's complete. Again 4 number of purl, yarn backwards. Let's unwind it first and then release it. That's the first strand, the second, the third and the fourth. Finally, that's our stitch. Put it back into the right needle, collect all the 4 strands, and then we are going to pass the actual stitch over all the 4 strands. Now we have 4 strands in our right needle. We are going to put it back into the left needle and work all the 4 strands together to get 1 stitch. So it is done. Now one more sequence to go. Yarn forward, 4 number of purl, yarn backwards. Let's release the stitch first. Yes. Now I'm going to collect the strands. That's the first one, the second, the third and the fourth. We have to be careful while doing the fourth one. Let's collect the main stitch, put it into the right needle, collect all the 4 strands and put it into the right needle. See, I'm showing you the strands. We have 4 strands. Now the main stitch is passed over all the 4 strands. Now the 4 strands are put into the left needle and then we work them together to get 1 stitch. So that is done. Yarn forward for number of pearl, yarn backwards, a knit. So our 4th row is complete and our first set of pattern is done. This is a beautiful pattern and an easy one to follow. Only the 4th step needs to be done a bit carefully. Let's work the pattern one more time. Starting off with the first row, the edge stitch is slipped off. After that, 4 number of pearl, yarn is there in the front, so we are going to work pearl by winding the yarn twice. So this is the sequence that is to be repeated for the first row of the pattern. So let's keep working. 4 number of pearl and again a pearl by winding the yarn twice. So let us work 4 number of pearl. After that, pearl, but we are going to wind the yarn twice. So that is the sequence that is to be repeated for the first row of the pattern. 4 number of pearl and then a pearl by winding the yarn twice around the right needle. Finally, we have 5 stitches left, out of which 4 is going to be pearl and the edge stitch is also going to be a pearl. So the first row of the pattern comes to an end. The pattern has started showing up. See how nice it looks. Let's move on to the second row of the pattern. The edge stitch is slipped off, yarn forward, 4 number of pearl, 3 and 4, yarn backwards, a knit, but we are going to wind the yarn twice. Yes, again yarn forward, 4 number of pearl, yarn backwards, we wind the yarn twice around the right needle. So let's keep working in the similar fashion. I have already worked 4 number of pearl and then I worked a knit by winding the yarn twice. Now let's work the last set, 4 number of pearl, yarn backwards, a knit, we are going to wind the yarn twice, yarn forward, finally it's going to be 4 number of pearl and the edge stitch is going to be a knit. So the second row of the pattern has come to an end. For this pattern we need stitches in the multiple of 5 plus 1, so I have taken 26 stitches. So let's work the third row. Edge stitch is slipped off. After that it is going to be 4 number of pearl. That's the third one. This is the fourth one. And then we are going to work pearl by winding the yarn twice. So that's done. Again 4 number of pearl, and again we wind the yarn twice to work pearl, again 4 number of pearl, the regular pearl, and again a pearl but by winding the yarn twice around the right needle. So let's work 4 number of pearl again, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and a pearl by winding the yarn twice around the right needle. Finally we have 5 stitches left, out of which 4 is going to be pearl and the edge stitch is also going to be a pearl. So this particular row comes to an end. Let's move on to the final row, that is the fourth row of the pattern. The edge stitch is slipped off, yarn forward, 4 number of pearl, 3 and 4, Now yarn backwards. Let's unwind the stitch first. Yes, now I am going to collect the strands, but here we are just going to get 3 strands, as we had got 4 strands in the very first pattern, but from the second pattern onwards we are going to get 3. Now the main stitch is passed over the 3 strands. The 3 strands are put back into the left needle. We work a knit from the back side of the work. So our first set is done. Now let's repeat the pattern. Yarn forward for number of purl, yarn backwards. Let's release the stitch first. Let's unwind it. Now let's collect the loops. That's the second and this is the third. We are just going to get 3 loops from the second pattern onwards. Now the main stitch is passed over the loops, 3 loops. We put back the loops into the left needle and work a knit from the back side. So let's repeat the sequence again. For number of purl, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Yarn backwards. Let's unwind the stitch first and release it. Let's collect the strands. That's the first, the second and the third. Now the main stitch is put into the right needle. We collect the 3 strands and the main stitch is passed over the 3 strands. The 3 strands are put back into the left needle and then we work a knit. So here our pattern is done. Let's repeat again. For number of purl, yarn backwards. Let's unwind it first and let's collect the strands. The first, second and the third strand. Now the main stitch is put into the right needle followed by the 3 strands. The main stitch is passed over the 3 strands. Now the 3 strands are put back into the left needle and we are going to work them together from the back side. Now we have 5 stitches left, out of which 4 is going to be purl as per the pattern. Finally, the edge stitch is going to be a knit. So the 4th row of the pattern has come to an end and I have shown you the pattern twice so that it becomes easy to follow. This particular pattern is going to look beautiful for children's cardigans, sweaters, pullovers. I hope you all liked it. It's a 4-row pattern for which we need stitches in the multiple of 5 plus 1. That is why I have taken 5 5s are 25 plus 1, 26 stitches for this sample. So thank you friends for staying till the end. If you all have liked the video, do give a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family members, and if you are new to our channel, do consider subscribing and stay tuned for more of interesting videos. So till we meet again, it is bye bye from all of us here at Plants, Crochet, Cooking and more.